You're watching Reuters TV. Here are your top stories.
Iraqi forces may be taking the law into their own hands.
Planes, war games, and a supermassive preemptive strike.
Serena Williams is carrying a trophy of a different kind.
This is Reuters Now.
As Iraqi forces come closer to routing Islamic State from their stronghold of Mosul, a grim trend is emerging elsewhere in the country. Unidentified bodies are being uncovered in areas of northern Iraq that could suggest a wave of vigilantism and extrajudicial killings against suspected militants and their sympathizers, long after they abandoned the territory. How many is unknown, but it's enough that security agencies are now investigating. Reuters correspondent Isabel Coles unraveled the story during a visit to the area.
In the course of interviewing security officials and locals, I heard about these bodies that were washing up in Qayyara. These revenge killings take place because people don't trust the state to deliver justice. But of course, by taking the law into their own hands, they are further weakening the state.
Local police maintain the bodies are victims of Islamic State, who may have slain thousands when they ruled. But security sources Reuters spoke with say the evidence suggests otherwise. The bodies are too fresh, killed after Islamic State fled. And some were bound and blindfolded, a style Human Rights Watch says suggests they were killed by Iraqi forces.
You know, the people in these areas that ISIS ruled over have suffered terribly. Almost everyone you speak to has lost one, if not more, friends or relatives. Understandably, they want justice, and in some cases, they don't feel like the state is able to deliver that for them.
Many of the soldiers and militia fighting against Islamic State have been personally affected by the jihadists and could now be looking to avenge friends and relatives. As Mosul crumbles, the bodies may be a sign of more reprisals to come.
Routine military exercises or preparation for war? On the Korean peninsula, it depends which side you ask. Members of the US and South Korean Air Forces holding joint drills on Thursday, a training event codenamed Max Thunder. But in the eyes of an increasingly hostile North Korea, scenes like these amount to one thing: preparation for an invasion. Pyongyang isn't taking any show of force by its enemies lightly. State media on Thursday warning America of a supermassive preemptive strike that would wipe out the US, accompanied by the blunt message, "Don't mess with us." It all comes as the US contemplates new ways to put pressure on the North.
We're reviewing all the status of North Korea, both in terms of state sponsorship of terrorism, as well as all the other ways in which we can bring pressure to bear on the regime in Pyongyang.
But although most of the world agrees that Pyongyang needs to be dealt with, how exactly that happens is also causing a stir. Wednesday saw a fallout at the United Nations, members of the Security Council tabling a new draft statement on Pyongyang's weapons program, sticking with a previous line to facilitate a peaceful and comprehensive solution, but removing the words "through dialogue" at the end. Russia demanded the words be added back into the statement, but the US didn't want that, and in the end, work on the draft was cancelled.
The United Kingdom. Bill O'Reilly's tenure at Fox News, once seen as unshakable, coming to an end Wednesday. Parent company 21st Century Fox announcing cable news' top-rated host will not be returning after a review of sexual harassment allegations. Media reports suggesting O'Reilly lost the backing of his boss, media mogul Rupert Murdoch. His removal from the lineup comes at a painful time for Fox. Roger Ailes, the architect behind the network's success, was fired under his own cloud of sexual misconduct allegations, and another ratings winner, Megyn Kelly, quit for NBC in just the past few months. Jen Saba follows media for Reuters Breaking Views.
I guess this is going to be the real test, right? Is Fox News, the brand, bigger than any of their one personalities? Ailes, O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly, Glenn Beck, whoever that's been in and out over the years. And so far they've proven that the brand itself is stronger. Now that could all come crumbling down with Bill O'Reilly.
The final decision apparently made without a face-to-face meeting. This picture taken Wednesday of O'Reilly at the Vatican shaking hands with none other than the Pope. In response to his firing, O'Reilly saying in a statement posted on his website, quote, "It is tremendously disheartening that we part ways due to completely unfounded claims." O'Reilly's stunning fall comes after another allegation this week of sexual harassment from a former Fox staffer. This follows revelations that $13 million in settlements had been paid over the years to settle similar claims, leading over 50 companies to pull advertising from his show. O'Reilly will not be back on the air to defend himself or say goodbye to his viewers, marking an uncharacteristically quiet end to 2 decades of bombastic commentary from one of the leading defenders on the political right. It also shows a stunning change of heart by management, since accusations of sexual bullying have been swirling around the network anchor for years, but never hurt his popularity until now.
The prison suicide of former New England Patriots star Aaron Hernandez, focusing attention on deep-rooted problems in the Massachusetts prison system. Federal data shows prisoners in the state are almost twice as likely to take their own lives than the rest of the country. Reuters Boston Bureau Chief Scott Malone.
I spoke to James Eldridge, a state senator whose district includes the prison where Hernandez's body was found hanging early on Wednesday morning. And he says he receives a call once every 2 to 3 months about an inmate within the state who's taken his own life. Eldridge has submitted a bill seeking to create an official state commission that would look into the problem of inmate suicide and come up with solutions for it.
Hernandez had been held in several state prisons since being taken into custody in June 2013. But it was at the Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, 35 miles west of Boston, where officials say Hernandez hung himself using a bedsheet. The prison was also the site of a January riot in which prisoners used fire extinguishers and furniture to battle guards. Hernandez was serving a life sentence for murder. Just a few days ago, a jury acquitted him of 2 additional murders. Hernandez hugged his lawyer, returned to his cell, and less than a week later took his own life. In all, suicide accounts for about 1 in 10 Massachusetts inmate deaths, almost double the national average. Advocacy groups have been calling for a number of steps to address the problem.
First and foremost, they say there's a need for more mental health counselors, more mental health care for people who are incarcerated, so that people who may be suicidal can be identified and get treatment. They also say that there's a need for more training for prison guards on how to identify people who may be potentially suicidal and how to deal with them.
Massachusetts has redesigned some prison cells to be suicide resistant, but experts say inmates are especially vulnerable, spending 19 hours a day locked up.
Arkansas's push to execute 8 convicted prisoners in just 11 days dealt another major setback after a judge blocked the use of one of the 3 drugs the state uses in lethal injections, the state court issuing a temporary restraining order Wednesday night. McKesson Medical Pharmaceutical, maker of pancuronium bromide, sued the state, saying Arkansas obtained the drug under false pretenses. The firm says it never would have sold the drug had it known it would be used in executions, and is demanding the drug be returned or impounded. The state argues it has been unable to obtain the drug from other sources and acknowledged in court papers that if the ruling is upheld, all pending executions would be indefinitely postponed. Arkansas announced plans to rapidly execute prisoners because another drug in its cocktail, midazolam, is set to expire at the end of April. That chemical has also been difficult to obtain as pharmaceutical companies increasingly refuse to supply drugs for lethal injections. Of the 8 inmates set to die, 3 have already had those sentences stayed. One of them, Stacy Johnson, was set to die Thursday. He was found guilty of a 1993 murder and sexual assault. Johnson had his case returned to a trial court Wednesday night to reconsider possible DNA evidence. Arkansas has not executed a prisoner in 12 years. Capital punishment in the U.S. has fallen to a 25-year low, roughly in step with a drop in violent crime nationwide.
There are countless points of data in the PGA Tour. The Microsoft Cloud makes sense of it, helping them transform their business.
The Microsoft Cloud turns information into insight.
Energy giant ExxonMobil refusing to comment on whether it's seeking U.S. government permission to drill in parts of the Black Sea banned by Moscow. Texas-based ExxonMobil wound down drilling operations in Russia's Arctic in 2014 after new U.S. government sanctions on the Kremlin in response to Russia sending troops into neighboring Ukraine and Crimea. But Exxon was allowed to finish some drilling projects as the new sanctions took place. Some U.S. politicians and American allies in Europe are worried the Trump administration might ease some sanctions imposed by President Barack Obama on Moscow.
Electric cars may be the headliner at this year's Shanghai Auto Show, but there's a problem for car makers. They're just not as popular as the government would like them to be. China is throwing its weight behind green energy to try and deal with its pollution crisis, demanding that a rising percentage of car sales have to be electric or hybrids. And as Reuters' Joe White reports, balancing what customers and the government want puts car companies in a tricky position.
The challenge is, can the automakers not only build electric cars and electric SUVs, but sell them in the numbers that the government demands? And that is entirely unclear because right now, most consumers want gasoline-fueled SUVs. Automakers would really rather not have electric vehicle sales mandates, but they know that they risk a lot if they don't comply with the government rules because China's auto market is the largest by far in the world, so they have to play a double game. They have to lobby to try to make the mandates as easy to comply with as possible and invest in the technology to comply no matter what.
Adding to the headache, China is already rolling back subsidies for green cars, which could mean even fewer people buying electric. But that's not going to stop automakers from towing the line.
Everybody's in on this game. The question is, who can make money? And that is not at all clear. Ford says that by 2025, all of the vehicles that they build here will at least be offered with either a full electric option or a plug-in hybrid option. But when you ask Ford how many electric cars they plan to sell, they don't really have an answer for that.
Insiders expect China to substantially boost EV sales requirements for automakers by 2020. So while brands like Ford and GM fight mandates in the United States, they're also scrambling to invest in electric to keep Beijing happy.
Serena Williams is pregnant. Her spokesperson clearing up confusion sparked by the tennis champion earlier on Wednesday. Williams shared a photo of herself on Snapchat captioned 20 weeks, which then mysteriously disappeared. But not before screenshots exploded across social media. The confirmation means Williams won the Australian Women's Open in January while pregnant. Marketing experts say her pregnancy will make her even more valuable to advertisers. The announcement coming just days before she's set to regain the #1 ranking by the World Tennis Association. Williams was named Sports Illustrated's Sportsperson of the Year in 2015, the first black woman ever to win that title. Her victory in the U.S. Open last year made her the winningest female in U.S. Open history. In Australia, she broke Steffi Graf's Grand Slam record, defeating her sister Venus in the final. She hasn't played a match since, citing a knee injury. Williams is engaged to Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian.
This is a million-piece puzzle, and when you sit back and you see the mosaic put together, you get this one incredibly even, fully executed idea. It's brilliant, great music. It's super funny, dramatic, and you know, it's got great emotion and relationships. It's beautifully, it's stunning. But making it is like, depends on what day you're working on. You're working on one piece of the puzzle, so it might be really boring. But there are also days that are really fun.
I see it within you. Fear. Jealousy, betrayal.
I'd love to be involved in that. It's kind of a cross between Rocky, Rambo, and space. Not bad. I knew I'd get there eventually.
You're up to date. Check back later as stories develop.